Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, after going through a range of 1 to 2 person, 3 to 4 season tents during 2021, I eventually decided to pull the plug and go ultralight with a dyneema fabric tent. It was a big decision which model to go for. However, after giving this careful consideration, I narrowed it down to the Tarptent Double Rainbow Li. The Tarptent Double Rainbow Li actually comes in this stuff sack that I've just shown you. However, the problem with this stuff sack is you have to put it in the bag that way or strap it on the top. It's not really packable in a horizontal position. I decided that wasn't really convenient for the way I like to pack my backpack, so I basically purchased myself a Z-Packs medium plus stuff sack, which it goes in really nice that way, and I can pack it in my bag horizontally. And I bought myself a Z-Packs pole bag for storing the poles and the pegs, so I can pack them inside or outside the bag, and that goes in the backpack in a horizontal position. And as you can probably see, that's actually quite neatly wrapped. That it doesn't really take a lot of room up. If I don't roll it so tight, it's a little bit more volume in the stuff sack, but you can see there's plenty of excess material there on that stuff sack to get the tent into. I did consider a ground sheet, but most people say you don't need a ground sheet with a dyneema tent. So I've got my space blanket, which weighs about 50 grams, which I use with my hubba. It fits this perfectly, and all I did was I put a little bit of gaff tape, gorilla tape on the corners and a couple of holes through, so if it's windy I can peg down my footprint before I get my tent out. And the footprint's really just to try and keep the bottom of the tent clean and add a little bit of abrasion resistance. However, as I said, in general, people say you don't really need a footprint with this tent, and I haven't found that I needed it with my MSR Hubba Hubba or my Big Agnes copper spur for that matter. So I've actually added in with my Double Rainbow Li 6 MSR mini groundhogs. I've also added some Z-Packs 1.5 dyneema guy lines which go onto the ridge pole, which we'll look at when we get the tent set up. The tent, the 2 bags, the 6 pegs and the additional dyneema comes in at 1 kilo, which I don't think is too bad for a 2-person tent. So I decided to make a few little modifications to the Double Rainbow Li. So let's get on with the erection. We'll get it up and we'll have a look at the little mods that I've done. So let's see how long it takes to get it up. I'll start with the ground sheet. Use the MSR groundhogs just to kind of pin that in position until I get the tent out. Unroll the tent. It's really easy to do this as well. That's about it. I'll just use, now I'm actually on the ground sheet, I can transfer those 2 pegs out onto the guys over the tent. There we go. And the same at this end. Probably noticed the insulated aluminium blanket is a tad small for this tent because it's a little bit longer than my MSR. However, it does the job just to really keep the bottom of the tent clean, which is what it's intended for. And take your ridge pole, and put it through the outer sleeve. There we go. Get the end into the little grommet. Got Blanco, the new dog, walking around here. Loves a stone. And then this end into that little grommet. Make sure your pegs are down. And then it's just a case of putting your ridge pole across the top of the tent here. There we go. And then stake out the vestibules, which it depends the angle you're on where you put your vestibule stake actually. And that's it more or less up. All she really needs now is a little bit of tension on this cord here to pull the bottom down. A bit of tension on the corners. Go. And that is more or less it. Ta-da! So that's how quick it was to erect the Tarptent double rainbow LI. I'll just do a little walk around so you can see it from all angles here. She is. And here she is from the other end, or the other side. And I haven't really spent a lot of time staking this down to get any of the creases out of the dyneema, but as you can see, just from a real rough, quick setup, there's not really a lot to complain about there. It's very nice and taut in way of all of the panels. So I'll just show you now some of the modifications I've done to the tent since I've had it. So the first little modification I've done is the addition of these 1.5 dyneema guy lines that I got from Z-Packs that have got the little line locks on them. So I've got 4 of those on the ridge pole. One thing I like about this dyneema is when you tie it up in a little band like this, with it being quite rigid, it doesn't come undone when you put the tent in the bag. Some of my other tents that have normal polyester guy lines, they come undone, and when you pull the tent out of the bag you end up with 2 meters of guy line dangling or tangled, and that doesn't happen with this dyneema, so I'm very happy with that. I'll just show you the guy lines out now in position. So there we've got the guy lines actually pegged out, and what I do is I just bring them out at about a 45-degree angle, more or less in line with the corner guy lines of the tent. And you know, for the sake of about 30 grams, that is just a little bit of insurance if you're out in the mountains, the wind changes and comes sideways onto the tent, or the conditions are not anticipated, for the sake of having that little bit of extra weight and a few more pegs, in my view, it's well worth it. So I'll give you now a quick look at the door options of the double rainbow LI, which are actually mirrored on the other side. So the door has got this waterproof zip. Some people actually say they feel this zip is not strong enough. I haven't used the tent that much really up to now, but I think providing you're careful with it and you don't get sand and you know, grit and impurities, that sort of thing, into the zip, I can't really see it being a problem, to be honest. As you can probably see, it works very smoothly with one hand. It's a little bit of a shame they didn't put a double zip on this so you could open it a little bit from the top. That's one of my sort of minor gripes, but to be honest, I don't really open the door from the top a lot anyway. So once you've got your top open, you've then got the option of just rolling back the door, whether you do it this way or with the roll on the outside, and literally come back to the side position. It opens quite neatly actually, where you've got a magnetic little tie there to put on the door, and that is really nice, not to be fiddling around with the little D toggles. And of course, if you want to, you can also open this door in the same manner. And fasten this back on this side. Like so. There we go. That is one of the reasons I got this tent, was because I can have both doors open when it's warm in the summer, and I can have a lovely cross breeze through the inside of the tent. The mesh doors actually open in opposing directions, so it doesn't matter which way round the tent is, you get in this end for this side and the bottom end for the other side. So the advantage of that is, if you've got your sleeping mat inside and you want to roll it up from the bottom, then you can actually go in the other side, open the door and roll your mat up from the bottom. That was one thing I found with my one-man tent, was when it come to rolling the sleeping mat up and I could only get in from the top, it was a little bit awkward, a little bit sort of constrained of space to do that properly. Whereas this tent, it's easy because you can go in the door at the other side there. So on the inside, you've got this nylon material at the bottom, which is supposed to be a wind barrier. I'll just show you the zips now. So when you buy this tent, the zips, which are YKK, just come with this metal end on them. So I actually went onto Amazon and purchased these little tails with little plastic pulls on them. And I think they're a great little addition, just to, in the night when you're looking for your zip, just to have that on the end, and they cost a couple of euros on Amazon. I've actually put them also on all of the doors on both sides, as I had to buy a pack of about 10, I think it was. So the inner door is virtually the same configuration as the dyneema outer door, in that you can open it and you just roll it back, and it's got the same magnetic catch on the door, which then goes onto the same position on the fly or the outer, and there we go, and then you can get into it. So one of my only gripes with this tent is, it's the first time I've ever had a dyneema tent with one of these floating floors, And obviously due to the configuration of the arch pole pulling the bottom of the tent out, you end up with a tight spot across the middle that then doesn't tension in the corners, because obviously the corners are pulling the fly out. So I'm going to have a little look at that now to see if there's anything I can do with those ends. Well guys, I've just found the answer to the floor being stretched along the middle and pulling down the central area of the tent, which it will do naturally because of the configuration of the arch pole. Let's have a look and I'll show you what I've done. It's an easy fix if that bothers you. So all I've done here is, there's a little clip here where your trekking pole clips onto. So all I have done is lifted that pole, pushed it that way a little bit, and I've put one of my spare pegs around a stake there to stop the pole coming this way and then putting tension along the floor. So if you wanted to do that, that's a quite an easy little fix if that was considered necessary. Right guys, so I'm inside the tent now, and as you can probably see, there is lots of room. It's certainly nice for one person to have the sleeping mat down the middle, for example, and some gear either side. I'm not going to fill it full of gear right now because there are other videos out there which show the space in this tent with a double sleeping pad and the backpack and all of the rest of the kit inside. So I did order the optional interior liner for the tent, which as you can probably see I've got in, and this fits really quite nicely. So this is intended to make the tent into a 3-stroke 4-season tent. I think the main objective of the liner is to prevent any condensation possibly dripping onto you if you're in those sort of weather conditions. But to be honest, I quite like it in because it just adds that little bit of privacy. This tent is very see-through, as you can probably see, so to have the liner there, it just makes it sort of less transparent, especially at night when you've got a light hanging in the middle here. I also bought the gear loft, which I've got here. Let me show you that. So that there is the Tarptent gear loft, which wasn't a lot extra. I thought I might as well get it just in case I found that I needed it. But to be honest, using this tent for solo backpacking, the only time I've used it is to hang my little light on, because I've got all of the room on the floor and the side pockets here. I'll be honest, I haven't really used that gear loft very much, so I may well even take it out and just shave a few grams off the weight. And another great feature with this tent is, if it's in the summer and you want a bit more ventilation, this bathtub floor here, which actually clips up onto this little D-ring here, it's very easy to take off. You can drop that, and as you can probably see, you can get your hand in past that mesh there, pull that up, and then that clips into that clip at the top there. It's not very easy to do with the phone in one hand and this in the other hand. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. So you could then have that like that to give a little bit of ventilation into the bottom of the tent, which is really good if you're in a hot climate. So I'm back outside now just to show you what the tent looks like with the 2 doors open. So that is a really airy little shelter there for when the weather gets warm. It's perhaps worthwhile commenting on this stage about the reason why I went for the DRLI opposed to the new Rainbow Li. Well, quite frankly, the span of the top ridge pole is exactly the same. All you've got is a little bit more width on the bottom, which makes it into a 2-man. So I just thought, for the sake of another 30 odd centimeters in width, it was worthwhile getting the 2-man. I was also a little bit concerned about the condensation in the single rainbow LI with the back wall, because with the double rainbow LI you have the mesh sides on both sides, whereas the single rainbow LI you would have one mesh side and one single dyneema wall, which you don't have the option of having the liner to cover that wall. So that was one consideration I did think about when deciding upon the double rainbow or the single rainbow LI. And another little modification I've done to the tent was the attachment of these little pockets for use with the trekking pole. So when I originally got the tent, this little pocket was knotted to this guy line, which meant when you pulled the guy line tight, there was about a couple of centimeters play or extra length on this pocket. So what I've actually done on both sides is I've put my guy lines through the little piece of webbing on the pocket, put a bowline in there. So that means now I've just got that little bit more tension on the guy lines, which has actually made it possible to use a 130 trekking pole opposed to the 140 which is recommended. It's not 100% taut, but it is a get you out of the crap modification, which I'll now show you. So there we have it. That's the tent in freestanding mode at this end with the use of the single trekking pole, and that is a Fizzan, which has got a maximum height of 130 centimeters. As you can probably see, it is just shy of creating full tension across the bottom of that ridge, but it's perfectly usable. There's a tent freestanding at that end. It's not going to fall down, and it means that I don't have to carry around those 2 aluminium extenders in the peg bag, which I will probably rarely use. So to have this option for the rare occasion where I can't get the tent pegged out, I think is a really good compromise. And as I say, all it is involved is re-knotting the end of the pole cups at the handle end and the foot end of the pole. So there we go, guys. That's my first review of the Tarptent double rainbow LI. I've used it a couple of times up to now. I've been really happy with the tent. The construction is flawless in my opinion on the one that I've received. I didn't get the blem model, which you can get for a little bit of a discount, but to be honest, I just didn't think it was worth it, so I went for one of the normal retail models. The guys at Tarptent were really good. They gave me really good advice. As I said earlier, at the last minute when the single rainbow LI was launched, it was about the same time that this came available on the website, I was seriously in 2 minds whether to get the single rainbow. But as I said earlier, one of the things that put me off was that the back wall, which I think probably will have condensation problems, and of course you can wipe it with a cloth as you do with dyneema tents, but it kind of defeats the object a little bit of the liner, which I suppose is intended to stop any moisture dropping onto you rather than running down the wall. But the more I thought about it, I just thought, well, it wasn't really a good solution for me. Might be for you, but it wasn't really a good solution for me. I'm really glad I stuck with the double rainbow now. It's got, you know, there's enough space in here for me and all of my gear. And I must admit, I went out on a hike a couple of weeks ago with the tent, and for various reasons I ended up aborting the camp at 9 o'clock at night in the pitch black, and I was able to pack up all of my gear inside the tent, put it outside the tent, and then pack the tent up and put it on the top of my pack and head home with the dog. So I'm really happy that I went for the double rainbow LI. So I hope the video has been useful. As I say, I have only used the tent a couple of times up to now. I will probably be doing some more reviews once I've had more extended use out on the trail. Guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy the videos, don't forget to click and subscribe to the channel. Stay safe.